Right now, it is time for the Berkshire Edge on air. Now, you can find the Berkshire Edge 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Where? TheBerkshireEdge.com. I said TheBerkshireEdge.com. But right now, David and Marcy are going to join us on the radio. Good morning.
Good morning. Here we are on the radio.
Yeah, good morning.
David, you got to sound a little more up on this.
Yeah, this is like the third I won't say third weekend. I'll say the third consecutive show where you've sounded like you're not a morning guy.
Good morning.
No, we've had a little domestic.
Well, we stay up late. And,
oh boy,
so we're tired at this point of the day.
And also we had run out of cat food.
No.
That's not good. I think that you will find if you survey your fellows that everyone had a domestic, this splat in the middle of attempting to do the day. There was some sort of domestic
See,
freeze.
David, it's a great thing about getting up at 3:30 in the morning.
No.
My animals get all the grumpiness.
Yeah, I got down early and discovered that yet again the horoscopes were wrong. But just trying to get the brain to kick in. So it's just anyway.
Well, anyways, it's good to have you guys here, and let's talk about Great Barrington Town elections.
Well, not only Great Barrington, but all the elections in the.
This is town meeting season.
Town meeting and town election season.
So women are back.
Pardon?
Women are back.
Women are back in a way, Great Barrington has two on the Board of Selectmen, and we have select board, and we have another one. Lee Davis was elected to the select board. She's quite a remarkable person in her own right, and she's a real community activist. She volunteers, and she's really put out herself to help the community, and she's been on the finance committee, and she's a young woman with 3 kids, and one of them is in college. So we have a picture of her on the front page, beaming with her 2 daughters.
Well, we also had in Egremont, Lucinda Vermeulen, who also had been on the planning board in Egremont, was elected to the select board by a landslide.
By a landslide, yes.
Something like 370 to 70, or
something like that.
Something like that. And also there was kind of an upset in Sheffield, where a very long-term member of the community, and a very established person, or whose family was very long-term, was beaten by a relative newcomer who'd only been here for about 8 years.
I mean, that's barely a resident.
That barely scratches the surface, I was going to say.
Certainly not considered
that qualifies you as a weekender.
Right. And Lucinda, whose race I was watching, she's the owner of Kenver, the sporting goods and clothing store in South Egremont, which was started by her husband, Ken Vermeulen, and when she had a retail background, and when he died...
She also had a broadcasting background, you know that?
She had a broadcasting background also?
Yeah, absolutely. She was
I didn't know that, but I know that she was a buyer for a very big department store chain, which no longer exists. I think it was Carson Peary Scott. When she met Ken on a plane. And she came to Egremont. She married him and moved to Egremont, and she's been very active in Egremont. She's been a very active member of the planning board, and she was also challenged by another woman who comes from a farm family, so again, a family that's been here for a very long time. But Lucinda had far more experience and far more sophistication than her opponent had. So she won handily. I mean, it was really a landslide for her, because there was another election, a planning board election in Egremont, and that was a much closer race than Lucinda's was. So So we have women, we have relative newcomers.
And shiver me timbers, sit me down, shut me up, lock the door, don't let me out. Two big things happened, which finally.
Oh, in the town meeting.
Yeah, we'll put an end to this.
Yes, we didn't talk to you last week.
No, the ban on single-use of water was affirmed, and also
right.
really
the Great Barrington has this ban on single-use plastic water bottles.
And now it's finally. Okay.
And for good reason, trying to take one small step to mitigate the flood of plastic that's of endangering our environment, and we banned it, which was there are a lot of people who felt that there were some people who felt that this was an intrusion, an inappropriate intrusion of government in banning these items. So they brought a petition to the town meeting, and it was again soundly defeated.
Very soundly.
Very soundly.
I mean, actually silently, but soundly.
Well, it went to a vote by hand.
Yeah.
And it was overwhelming.
There were it was.
We had a picture of the vote. I mean, it was a sea of yellow markers held high in the air to turn this petition down that would have rescinded the ban.
And and those in favor of rescinding, there were about 8. Out
of 400.
Yeah.
Now, how was
this is the second night of the town meeting.
I mean, it's great to see that the middle schools could be named after W.E.B. Du Bois.
Oh yeah, that is
that's not a binding. I mean
that is a recommendation. It's a regional school, so district, but so there are 2 other towns, West Stockbridge and Stockbridge. However,
it's a big step.
It's a big step to, I think, overcoming the resistance to honoring this remarkable philosopher and who was a native of Great Barrington, after all, and he was a founder of one of the founders of the NAACP. He was a brilliant writer, and he was the first African American to go to Harvard. And he was just a remarkable individual who the town, for a number of reasons, had never gotten itself the courage to honor. And now several things have been happening. One is that there's a proposed statue or monument to him on the library lawn. Proposed. And a proposal to rename the elementary school after him. So this is a real turnaround from years ago when naming the elementary school after him was turned away. The tide has changed.
Well, and the tide is going in the right direction. It's just a really nice thing to see, which I think that stigma might finally be breaking up.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Well, this is, look, just in terms of trends. I mean, even though the local election in Great Barrington is nonpartisan, you're not voting by party. The candidates are identified by party affiliation, and so I noticed yesterday that I noticed who was affiliated with what, and so in Great Barrington, none of the Republicans won. There was one Republican who's a known conservative running for the library.
Library. Oh,
there were 3. You had to choose 2 out of 3, and the Republican lost. And the Republican on the select board lost. You had to pick 2 out of 3. And the newcomer won in Sheffield. So we have, things are changing, and I imagine that the people who have been here forever are feeling kind of displaced. That these were old conservative towns, and now either times are changing or there's an influx of newcomers who are taking over.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't be surprised if you'll find somebody from this conservative core to propose that we build a wall. Maybe on Route 23 there, and on Route 7, to prevent people from coming from Connecticut.
Well, it was proposed after 9/11. Somebody proposed that people be blocked.
Yeah, New Yorkers could not come here from
New York.
Believe it or not, there was a proposal by Ed McCormick. He was head of the emergency management.
I'm sorry. That's Colbert. That's Colbert show worthy.
What?
That's Colbert show worthy.
You hate to bring that up, but but
meanwhile, along the same line,
we're as crazy as everybody else here. That's what.
Along the same lines, we also have a story about a woman named Gwendolyn Van Zandt, who is an African-American woman and founder of an organization called Multicultural Bridge. And she was honored as the Berkshire Business and Professional Woman of Achievement. Now, what's it that honored her? I forget the name of the organization. That's terrible. But anyway, she has been quite a prominent woman. She's not, she's a young woman. Relatively young. She's probably in her 40s, maybe?
Yep.
Yeah. Who's been very active in trying to bridge the gap between races and cultures. So, interestingly enough, her husband is white.
Yep.
And so they have a multicultural bridge right in their own marriage. So, there is, I am hoping that African Americans here are feeling, feeling that there's a little bit of progress being made on their behalf, because the speakers, it was quite moving, the speakers who spoke for and against the recommendation to name the school after W.E.B. Du Bois. And there was one African-American man who got up and spoke about how difficult it's been for him here.
Mm. Yeah, that's right. He was quite moving.
Quite moving. And he is looking forward to a little bit of recognition, because there's a long-standing black population in Great Barrington. This was a stop on the Underground Railroad.
We have in the past talked about the Clinton Church,
right.
The AME Zion Church, which is nestled right in the heart of the downtown of Great Barrington, which was an African-American church.
Right.
And there are a number of people that have gotten together to restore that building, which needs a new roof and so on and so forth, and restore it to a kind of center, if not a church, at least a cultural center. So that things really are changing here, little by little, and it's good to see.
Right. Now, something else before our time runs out that we really want to draw your attention to is we are running every Friday a series of videos called Talking with Teens About Substance Use. Not substance abuse, but substance use.
Yeah.
And they really are worth looking at. They're being put out by a group here in Great Barrington called the Railroad Street Youth Project, and they are videotapes of little scenarios of conversations between a teen and an adult, and they are tips. Not only are they full of information, but they're also tips on how to talk to a teen about how to show respect, how to approach the subject, what a parent should know, and what.
But it's really also for teens.
Yeah, it is. It is for teens too.
To
realize
how, but also how to talk to, and that they should talk with their parents and adults. So it's a really interesting little series, and each as Marcy said, each one has a little scene, you might say, a little dramatization of a conversation between a teen and an adult, or between two teens. So it's really educational, and it's part of the community health program effort to educate people about substance abuse and how to avoid it. So,
all right,
it's really, we recommend it. And
so, how would they find?
They go on the edge, and they can search for Talking with Teens.
So just go to the BerkshireEdge.com and then search Talking with Teens.
Yeah, there's a search bar up on
search bar.
And actually, if you just want to go, just put that into a Google. By the way, it will come up as well. The Berkshire Edge and Talking with Teens.
They are very interesting. They're very well done. They're very short, but they have a lot of information.
And by the way, I'll put in a pitch here for the Railroad Street Youth Project, which is just a terrific little organization that is for teens. They have next to the ball fields and skateboard park down on Bridge Street in the center of town. They have a little headquarters, and they meet there regularly, and it's a real resource and refuge for kids. And it's run by some really talented adults, and it's been around for I think like 20 years, and it's really a resource for teens.
All right.
So,
yeah. By the way, just the organization that honored Gwen Van Zant was the Berkshire Business and Professional Women, and they called her the 2019 Woman of Achievement. So,
all right. Well, to go to the next story, we have about 6 minutes left, but that's plenty of time to talk about Pete Buttigieg, the candidate who has come out of nowhere to become a central figure.
Every so often we have a yes. How do you pronounce his name? That's the first thing.
Buttigieg.
Yeah, Buttigieg. Yeah. Think of boot, and JPEG. Buttigieg.
Buttigieg.
But we have writers, we run stories that are not only about local issues, but we have writers who reflect on national issues, and this is one. He's the mayor of
South Bend,
Indiana, and is declared for president. His candidacy for president, and he has a book. And one of our writers reviews his book and finds him to be an intriguing candidate. Of course, at this point, almost anybody would be an intriguing candidate.
There's 22 possibilities of intriguing candidates.
What? I mean, what I mean is that we need somebody to replace the disaster we have. Anyways, it's a really interesting review, and it's we can recommend it.
All right.
Speaking of the disaster we have, we also, it's not on our list, but, we have a financial guy who writes us a weekly or a regular column. I don't know if it's weekly.
Yes, weekly.
Weekly column. Alan Harris, sorry. And he has a very interesting article in today's Edge about the trade war with China, putting it in perspective, but also making it very clear that if this trade war seems to be threatening the economy, his feeling is that you can bet that Trump is going to abandon the trade war because he is not going to allow this to interfere with his election campaign.
Well, we'll have to see what happens.
And also the fact that the trade war is exacerbated by Trump's policy confusion. That he says one thing to the Chinese one day, then they show up in Washington to discuss what he had said a few days before, and he says something completely different. And so, they're very confused. Maybe
so is everyone else. Maybe it's got ADD.
I mean, maybe this is a negotiating technique, but it certainly is confusing the Chinese and not likely to be doing us very much good.
All right. I want to wrap. We only have about 2 minutes left, so we want to talk about the students who walked out of classes protesting inaction on climate change.
Yes, right.
Well, this was, our students here are quite active and politically aware, and so we have a story about them just marching out of class and taking part in a national protest against climate change. After all, it's going to be they're the ones that are going to suffer from this.
No, it's true. I heard somebody speaking the other day who said, "Look, by the time us middle-aged people, by the time this hits, we middle-aged people will be, past, if we're still here, past the point where it's going to make a huge difference to our lives." But young kids they're going to be hit with the serious climate change right in the middle of their, the prime of their lives. So,
or the consequences of it.
The consequences of climate change. So, it's really incumbent on them to start to protest.
Well, I've seen elementary school kids. I have some pictures of kids standing along the road outside Berkshire Country Day School, for example, holding signs about protesting climate change and calling on the government to do something, at least be serious about overcoming this. And so hopefully that attitude and will prevail when they will be with them, when they're adults.
Yeah.
So we may be seeing a sort of a change from the bottom up, you might say, in the attitude of people in this country. So that'll be interesting to see.
All right. All those stories and more every day, 24 hours a day, the BerkshireEdge.com.
26 hours a day, actually.
That's right. Maybe we put it up to 28 because we all know what you mean.
28 hours then.
The BerkshireEdge.com. That is the BerkshireEdge.com. We'll speak to you guys next week.
You bet.
Okay.
All right.
Have
Thanks
a good
again.
Week.
Right. David and Marcy from the Berkshire Edge, the BerkshireEdge.com. And this is the Berkshire Edge on air, of course.